Hello everybody, welcome to the latest Joy of ZZT episode. It's been a little bit since we've done this. Last time we went through, did some cleanup, finished up a puzzle board, the usual. Today we're gonna do an engine, which I guess I should probably define. An engine is essentially using objects to change the way ZZT plays. If you go back to my tweet where I plugged the stream, I posted screenshots of various examples, which I will quickly link here in chat. So if you take a look at that link and look at the 4 attached screenshots, we get one from City of ZZT, which is essentially the first sort of engine, I guess you would say, where the player hits a bunch of objects with arrow keys and they in turn send messages to that little smiley face in the middle, and basically you move around and shoot some breakables and push some keys around. And that's technically just ZZT's normal gameplay, really, but it's using objects to do something different. You look at the next one, you get something a bit more complex, which is Freak the Cat, which is a side-scroller done in ZZT. And that game, basically every single board uses this sort of engine where you have the player sort of trapped in the corner there, surrounded by arrow keys, and touching those arrow keys sends a message to the cat, who will then move or jump, so you can sort of write your own really crude physics and gravity, and a dedicated buy a hamburger button on the level that I chose to pick. And then probably one of the most common sort of engines that you see is the RPG engine, where you have some objects to create randomness and select attacks from menus, health bars, and make an RPG battle, which is something that the ZZT player can't really do on its own. The last one I did there is from Speed Racer X. This was the engine originally I was gonna have us do something like, which is a racing game. And again, a very common theme of these is very frequently the player is surrounded by objects, and basically those objects get used as proxy controls. So in this case, you'd be steering a car and adjusting your speed and trying to make your way through the track as fast as possible. But today, we're going to do something original. Mainly because, while messing around with some graphics, I was trying to actually prepare for once. I was doing some graphics, trying to come up with exactly what I wanted to do. And I stumbled on something I kind of liked. And my goodness, I actually have an engine already made. And we're going to just remake that engine. So hopefully it'll be a lot more smooth and not me thinking, oh yeah, I need this, oh yeah, I need that. Tractor.ZZT here. Is this. And it's not quite fleshed out. Oh, it helps if I load the proper world. But essentially, we control the spaceship with the arrow keys. Line up on some unsuspecting human, and activate the tractor beam. And if we're lucky, we get one. So we're going to be making a human abduction simulator today. This is our goal. One thing I didn't quite figure out entirely is how to integrate this into the game. We're going to kind of skip over that for now, kind of like how we just started making our mall when we were making our mall. So let's quit out of here. Get back to KevEdit, and back to our Joy world. UFO game. Not to be confused with UFO games. So essentially, when you're doing something like this, player is going to be touching arrows, messing around with some controls. And in our case, we're going to be doing something a little smaller. I don't need this whole massive board. Even that example is probably too big, so I'm going to shrink things down a little bit. Just draw a little border here. It gives us a better play area. And as is tradition, a lot of games that use engines love to use dark blue and sort of blend it in with the sidebar. That's a very popular choice. Feel free to do that. So essentially something is going to bring us to this board at some point. So I'm just going to preemptively make a passage. The player will walk down into their controls. There'll be a left and right and a tractor beam. So let's get right to it. What we wanted to do is make our UFO. No, I lied. What we want to do first and foremost is actually make our arrows. If you hit Control S, you see the stat order. That often actually comes up. It becomes pretty important when you're dealing with engines, because if you place things sort of out of order, messages can kind of get crossed and skipped over. So first thing I want to do is make my controls so that their controls get to act first on this board. So I do this really simple. Some arrows. And also, if you're doing engines, you almost always want to use cycle 1. Especially for controls, because if you make them cycle 3, you are just adding latency to your game, and it's just going to be significantly more slow-paced. And it's not going to feel responsive. So this guy doesn't really need to do much. Touch the objects, send our UFO to go west. And I know that's a redundant end, so we're going to be going back and forth quite a bit, editing code with this. The same thing here, UFO east. And lastly, a tractor beam button. Then we will go start drawing our little spaceship. I kind of like the little UFO design I ended up making. It's basically just a lot of objects to start. And actually, before we do anything, let's just demonstrate something. We're going to name this guy on the left here UFO. West, try west. East, try east. Not even going to worry about the tractor beam yet. And we're just going to tell... Nope, yeah, see, these are all cycle 3. Do not want to forget that. I have a habit of naming these things in engines ship. But I decide to be literal here and name it UFO. So expect me to make that typo a lot. Let's copy this, put it in all these objects here. I'm going to actually start playing this. You can already see one of these is a little screwy. That's because sure enough, I left one at cycle 3. I left that one at cycle 3. Okay, so now they're all the proper cycle. Let's try this again. I'm just going to gently tap the arrow keys. Looks good. Looks great. I'm holding them. Still smooth, still good. And I'm going to break it. I'm going to run into a wall. And okay, our objects get horribly meshed together. That's something we'll handle later by not letting you move if you're blocked. That's easy enough, but I want to put the objects next to each other like this just to demonstrate something. You can see that it freed up. It moved to the right. If I do against on this wall, it's staying together. And essentially, let's do this without the walls. Let's make some quick copies. So we get our nice little 2x2 of objects. And ZZT does not actually like that. It can't do this as smoothly as it would like to. As we would like it to. If we move this left, you know, it looks great still. If the bottom half there, if we move to the right though, it starts spreading apart. It doesn't work. And that's because of the stat order. Since I did the left half here first, and then these ones. Essentially, this object here is saying go left. And so it'll go through the stat order. These objects here will go left, which means there'll be a blank space in this column. And then these objects here will get a chance to react, and they'll go left into that empty space. And it'll all look great, smooth, and stay perfectly together. But when we hit right, then we're going against the stat order, and that causes issues. Because in this case, these two objects here, again, they act first, they get told go right, but they're blocked, they can't. This thing still hasn't moved. So then this thing gets its turn, and it moves, and now there's a gap. So if you're doing something that's made of multiple objects, and they're connected like this, that's going to happen. Like, you can't do large clumps of objects that can move in multiple directions. You can get them to move in two. These would move fine to the left, and assuming the stat order was top and to bottom also, you'd be able to move this north as well, but you'd run into the same issue having it move south or east. There's clunky, messy things you can try and do to mitigate that. If you make your controls actually a little less responsive, you could instead... Which one of these did I actually make UFO? I'm going to make it the antenna because that one will stand out. Get rid of this. There. Now I know that's my object. So what you could do with a situation like this is basically have it keep trying. In this case, if we do this and it can't go west, it'll jump back to this label, so it'll automatically try again without any other input. And to some degree, that'll smooth things over. We go back to the game here. Left still moves great. If we move to the right now, well, now it's got a limp. I don't know why it has a limp. But I mean, that somewhat improved it. Oh, that's probably a bind thing, actually. Don't worry about that. But you're still gonna run into issues if you start holding buttons down. Yeah, I guess it does look a bit like a mecha, this weird garbage bits just everywhere. So we're just going to kind of deal with it. You could get around to some complex techniques to try and mitigate things further, but we just want to get something done. This is our game about collecting 5 purple keys, and by God, if our UFO kind of falls apart at times, it happens. One thing we can do to slightly improve things is, instead of making everything objects, I'll make some of these boulders, which are going to be pushable. So basically we don't need any code for here, and these guys will just get pushed left and right as the UFO moves. Thank you. We're going to actually not be able to use bind because I want to do these visual effects, and that's going to be different per piece. So I'm going to Control A with the character command here. I'm going to have it change back after it moves. Same thing here. Go in the opposite direction. Doing some copy pasting here. This part of the UFO will not animate, so I'll get rid of those lines. This part, same thing. With these guys, I wanted to do a sort of banking effect as the UFO flies. So let's see, so when this one moves left, it doesn't need to do anything. When it moves to the right, we'll have this part sort of tilt upwards so it's at an angle, and then go back to normal when it's done. Do the opposite on here. So let me copy it straight out of this. Get rid of all this. In this case, we have this one animate on this direction. So I believe we should have some simple movement here. Oh, that's falling apart even worse. Look at it go. So let's see here. What do we do? Screwed up here. 29.8, 33.8, 33.8. That break entirely. Oh, is it actually because of try? I think that might be interfering with the fact that it has to push boulders. I think try might not work in that case. I'm actually not sure offhand. Let's see if this does anything different. Sure enough, that did it. So there's a lot of weird no? Okay, it's just falling apart once we hold the button in. Oh. It's doing that because we're kind of reacting a little too fast. So I'm going to actually slow this down by making it so you can't spam the button. And in my example engine, we had to move 2 steps at a time. Let's see if this makes it any better. I forgot the unlock command on one of them. But there we go. Left is moving good. At least until you hit a wall. Just gonna update the movement here. So have it moving 2 steps at a time. And I still forgot my unlock. Oh, did I have it backwards? I wasn't paying attention to my slashes. Yeah, I do have that backwards. So 47 and 92. And I fixed my unlock here. Now, hopefully, we are good to go. Almost. The antenna still isn't moving far enough. Okay, but now I'm holding right, and the ship stays together. I'm holding left, and the ship stays together. We are abducting aliens. Or, I'm sorry, we're aliens that are abducting humans. Have that backwards there. We're steering our little UFO around, and it's going to have a little tractor beam. Let's make the surface of this horrible planet called Earth. Let's do something a little more colorful. There you go. Those are the good graphics. So the next thing we're gonna want to do, I'll make these dark gray because I think it looked nicer like that. And I mean, there's plenty of visual flourishes you can do. Like I'm doing these little animations as it moves. You can do sound effects. You can do some more complicated animations. So we're going to now start setting up our tractor beam. So we've got beam on, and same thing too, I want to put this guy on hold. And actually, beam button. This one needs to be a little more complex, because the beam is going to last a while depending on what happens. Let's see. UFO beam on. Actually, no. I'm going to send every object on the board to jump to the label beam on. So first and foremost, this one moves west, this one moves east, and we're actually going to have hidden objects here. And I say hidden, but when you're working on stuff like this, a lot of times it's helpful to make it not actually hidden just yet. So I'm just going to use this tiny dot, and that'll normally be invisible. UFO. Actually, this guy needs most of this, because it also needs to move the ship. But when the beam comes on for this thing, first it's got to appear. Let's see. Good tractor beam character. Yep, yes, need to make a cycle 1. Yeah, I'll go with a V. Definitely cycle 1. Everything on this board pretty much is going to be cycle 1. Double pipes would be good. So I'll turn it into a V, and then we need to shoot down a beam. So I'm going to count off my spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's actually 6, but this is where all the enemies, well, the victims are going to be. So I only want to put down 5 total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now conveniently, one of the commands that you can do multiple times in a single cycle is put. So I'm going to put south, a boulder. 5 of these. And I'm going to deviate from how I did my offline version of this, and we're going to just leave it like that. I'm going to have the target objects do things a little differently. Again, cycle 1. Normally, they'd be running around. But while we're testing, it's going to be a lot easier if they just stand still. So we fire this beam. And we already said we're going to send every object to a label called beam on. So we'll then simply have this guy check. If blocked north, caught. Because normally, a bunch of empty spaces, but if this tractor beam's on, then it's going to be blocked to the north. Caught. Otherwise, don't worry about it. Let's do a little debug message here. Not caught. Yes, caught. Because I think we're going to have to mess with our timing a little bit more. I don't think this is going to work out of the box as this currently is. Let's see. Press the button. Okay, so it is going to work. Good. Oh, that's because of our stat order. Again, because this guy gets to act first, it gets sent to beam on, it puts all these boulders down, and then this thing gets to act. If this object was made first, it would check if it was blocked to the north, and it wouldn't be, and then this beam would come on and put the boulders. So yeah, as Lifer's saying there, humans need to be after this. This is one of those cases where order is important. If you do mess up your order, there's unfortunately no easy way to rearrange. You kind of just gotta grab, I'm not gonna do it on this board lest I actually break something, but if you look here, 2915, here's a fish. Grab the fish, put it in the pattern buffer with insert, delete the fish, replace the fish, and now it's at the end of the list. Keep that in mind too. I'm not 100% confident on what happens if you like copy and paste. Just be aware of your stat order, because you can definitely break things if you're not paying attention to it. So we're going to get sent to either yes caught or no caught. We're going to handle not catching first. It's easy enough for the human, they just go back to doing their thing, running around in circles. UFO, however, needs to shut off the beam. Actually, no, this isn't going to quite work. Because we're going to have a whole bunch of these humans, and you're only going to ever catch one, so even if this one gets sent to COT and does whatever its code is, another human over here would see that it's not COT and send UFO to not COT, so I don't want to do it like that. What I need to do is make this timing based. So, instead of doing anything here, we go back to the beam, we wait a little bit. This 3 idols is more than enough for sure. I think we can do it in 1, but this also lets the beam linger. Dang it. Yeah. So I'm going to put these idols in here and assume that if it gets to this part of the code, because nothing told it to go to a different label, that nothing was caught. Let's actually do this too. Change the boulder into solvable. And we'll do a little animation here where it fades out the beam. And again, this is going to hit any kind of blue thing on the board. Now this border is a dark blue, so it's going to be fine. But pick your colors appropriately. Make a little blue water. Water. Empty. So that gets rid of this. Now we want everything to sort of resume. So I want you to be able to do this again. So we're going to restore the touch label so you'll be able to touch the beam button again. And we're going to want to actually stop all the buttons from working while you're in the middle of firing the beam, which is where that all label comes in handy, especially since I didn't even name these objects. So things like all are the only way to actually address them. So the beam on happens here, same thing. Zap the touch. And ready, we restore touch. You can copy and paste that into the other arrow. And let's see what this looks like. I need the beam button before the arrows. No, yeah, it's not going to make a difference. I think. We'll find out. We got our beam fading away. So at this point, we should unlock our controls with this ready command. And then we should... Now we should be good. Okay, so we can keep spamming the beam. We can move after it. I'm holding arrow keys after I fire the beam. Okay, so there's obviously still an issue there. Especially since now I can't go left. Or fire. I sure can go right. So we gotta do some debugging. Let's finish this path first. Let's continue catching the dude here. In this case, get a label ready here. It's in here. If it gets caught, then we need this guy to get abducted, which is almost as simple as walking north. But that beam isn't made of things that are walkable. So we kind of need to walk north. Actually, walking is going to be bad in this case, because we gotta destroy. Put north, empty, /north. So let's see, it needs to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that'll walk on up into the beam. Whatever the last label is, basically every time you send a message, it'll update where in its code it's pointing at, and then it's just going to execute from wherever that happens to be when it gets to execute. So if I send ship left and ship right, it's going to go right because that happened later. Restore up so we can repeat this process. And to, it's going to be a to-do, because we're already using the score counter throughout this game, but for now I just want to do this so we can quickly have something tracking the number of people we've captured. Then we need to still do already. So let's see. Can we abduct a person? Yes. And then we can move left, and then we can move right. Okay, we're making progress here. It's amazing what happens when you make these things in advance. We saw some bugs before, and we definitely need to figure out how to do those. so we can fix them. But in general, if you're being delicate with the controls, yeah, almost certainly it's controls not being locked or unlocking too early. So if I fire the beam and I immediately hit right, then yeah. So when I fire this beam, everything gets sent to beam on. So actually, yes, I think our stat order does matter in this case. So what I want is for these guys. So I'm going to put the beam button first, then the left and right. I'm just inserting all of these and placing them down so they get put at the end of the order. And let me actually make a safety save here for once. So I just grabbed these objects, started with the beam, placed it down, then the arrow keys, placed those down, and now I'm going to see if this works properly. I just grab this whole ship at once, cut and paste. I am actually going to make this a separate file. Joy 2. Go back here. Now let's say fire beam, move right. It's just firing the beam. And it's still not quite right. Also, let's see, ready. Ready needs to reset these buttons. And make this go back to being hidden. And by hidden, I mean a tiny dot. And I showed you the wrong thing again. I think the beam should reset properly. Okay, yeah, the inner bottom half of the UFO moves back into place now at least. So we fire and we move. Fire, move. So why can I move when I fire? I don't want to be able to move once I hit that fire button. So I hit the fire button. Everything gets sent to beam on. Which should zap its touch. I'm going to name these just so they show up with names in the stat order. Oh, what? How did... My stat order is still all screwed up. Okay, that's definitely better. I have to be like really quick to hit an arrow after I shoot the beam. So I'm going to try and do something I was doing in the earlier mock-up engine I did. I'm going to make this a little bit more physical. So fly and instead of worrying about zapping and restoring touches, we're going to do this. We're going to also put to the south a red solid. In this case, we're going to erase it. Go back into these things. If any red solid, end. If any red solid, end. Oh, and actually one last thing. I want to have to move first. Move left, move right. If I fire a beam, there we go, that's working better. A lot of like side-scroller engines in ZZT use something like that to track whether the player is like falling or mid-jump or something. Or they'll just place a solid wall or some special element that other objects can quickly check for and just immediately know that, oh, there's a thing. There's a thing on the board, so that means something else. So I think I can actually gut all this zap and restore stuff. Yeah, I'm very confident. And actually, I want to do the same thing here. I think it should have the same exact effects. West, east, scooting along, fire and miss, can't move, okay, fire and hit, okay, that's actually looking great. So we've got kind of the base concept of the engine here. We need to add some conditions, as it were. First and foremost, I think it's probably time to start having these people walk around. Now, conveniently, as horrible as ZZT's weird random directions are, go random, perpendicular, north. So, because surprise, that's not a command. Now, this on its own is going to be way too fast because this guy is cycle 1. It needs to be to react responsively to all this stuff. This line of code is the same as this line of code. Whichever you prefer. Ah, yes, that's also true. We actually do want to make sure that it is try. That way, if they hit a wall, they don't stop entirely. We do want them to be a little bit slower about it, though. And just to spice it up a little bit, if blocked, random, idle. So that way it's not a set pattern. This is terrible randomness though, because there's only one direction that they're going to be blocked under normal circumstances, but yeah, you can do fail in case it is blocked. This will jump to the fail label. So now let's see what this dude looks like running around. Let's see if that's too fast or too slow. Great, that's exactly like human beings. That's how they move. Beautiful. There's a couple of things we can do. We can go back to here. If we look at that earlier example, in this case I just had a bunch of humans wandering about. Well, it might be a better way to do it is to have one at a time, and then when you get captured, have it sort of spawn another. And by spawn another, I mean we're gonna fake it till we make it here. So when it does get captured, instead of dying, we're gonna kind of reset it. Easiest way to do that, turn it completely invisible. We'll have it move to the south, and we'll have it walk south. We don't actually need to do this, but this will speed it up. This trick will let you maybe move 2 steps in one cycle. So 1, 2, so it'll take less than 3 cycles to be back on the ground. And we've got our built-in label thud, which happens whenever you can't walk to the south. And similarly, I'll add it as an edge case on here. Now we could count it out and actually test. I never remember if moving happens before walking or walking happens before moving. But this will cover both cases. Either way, eventually this object won't be able to move to the south, and whichever one of these lines makes it fail to do so, it'll thud. So then we'll be back on the ground. And now we need to kind of move it, run all over the place. Because, yeah, right now it's just going to be right below the ship again. We could also have it move, south and like to the west or something, and basically slam into a wall like so. But we kind of want to not have it be too far away, and we also want this to be reasonably quick. So let's see. Moving happens last. So yeah, first it would walk. So in this case, the order of the code would say, it would be here, it would try south, the cycle would end, and its vector would be set to south for walking. Next time it would immediately walk and then move south, then it would walk and move south. So I think we would hit thud with the walk command. But it doesn't matter, because this is going to catch both cases. So hit thud. Now we kind of want to decide where to move. I want to pick a direction. So this will have it move east or west. Flow. So actually, this will let it scatter around. No, I don't like that. Do it like this. Zap thud. Have it walk in a random direction. And then have it move a few times in a random direction. It's probably still gonna suck, honestly. Tell it to stop walking, restore the thud label so that we can thud properly next time. HR1 can go back to loop, and I think this should work. Let's see what this looks like. Pretty good until it hits a wall. Because then this is going to happen. So yeah, we probably do need a better way to reset. And we could in fact have other objects that pop up once the first one's gone. In fact, let's go for something like that. Let's try this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. So we actually do this. I'm very indecisive about whether this would be worth it. Let's just move on for now. We'll worry about better landings for this dude later. So we need to have a loose state as well. And we have that in the original, or every time you fired the beam, it reduced some energy. So we're going to add a beam-o-meter. Yeah, Cypher that is a bit over the top. We could do some stuff to sort of reset things with advanced X and Y coordinate editing and all that junk. Let's just worry about making that UFO HUD. These guys. Remember to make everything cycle 1. God dang it. There's our HUD in progress. Some breakable walls. Gotta do some visual flourish just because we can. Stole this effect from a DOS game called Ansi Dude. It's been like 15 years since I first found it, and I still love it. Well, that looks actually properly centered. Can we center this? I know, it's so good, isn't it? It's the best. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Well, we'll do it like this. There we go. Now we got an energy-o-meter. Let's copy and paste this on the other half. That is too big. We gotta shrink it. Actually, I want to make sure we get a dark blue background. Get rid of all this junk. So now we have to decide how. We've got the energy, but there's other stuff we can decide. Do we want to have a time limit? Do we want to have a minimum score threshold? What exactly is our goal here? Does it just want to be get as many as you can until you run out of energy? I kind of want to go with a timer. Score threshold. We can do both, actually. We can say you have X seconds to capture 3 humans. Let's keep on doing this HUD. Time. Okay, let's do. Oh, actually, we could incorporate something into the HUD like that. I'll get to that in a second. Let's get to these first. Start first and foremost with our little cargo counter. It's going back here. Instead of giving a score, I'm going to say cargo calling ink. Actually, we'll do it this way. So this is, the good news is that doing sort of physical numeric counters like this out of objects on a board, as long as you're only going in one direction, either always increasing or always decreasing, it's actually really easy. You just do some zaps. And if you have it something that hits double digits after you loop around, you have it restore and start again. Okay, this would be handling our victory. Oh, this interface looks so much nicer now. There we go. Our cargo count increased to 1. I mean, we can adjust. Maybe we'll have them go up to 5. Depends on how difficult this comes across as. And I trust our tractor beam enough now. We know it's there. Let's go back to char 32. So it'll be nice and visible. And you can do more visual effects too with that beam too. We just did all blue boulders. You can sort of start with white and then have it fade. There's plenty you can do. Metallic effect is just like the best thing. The dude who came up with that was just so good. And ironically now, I think this dark blue looks out of place. But I'll worry about that later. So we're going to do a counter here. And I'm going to make it... Are these cycle 1? These should be cycle 1. Well, that's the only one that animates. I'm just going to make my life difficult and start it as a triple digit counter just to demonstrate how to do that, even though it would be so much easier to just say 99 seconds or whatever. Timer. Actually, I'm going to make this time display. A. Great. That becomes a 0. The next time the timer has to decrement. B. E. And actually this is a case where we actually won't want cycle 1 because cycle 1 is going to be way too fast for this to be a second. Or anything remotely close to it. So in this case, the first time this gets called, it turns into a 9. An 8. 7. 6. Did I do this? Yeah, I did. 655, 54, 53, oh god. Well, one was 53. So that was 5? 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. I'm doing this backwards. I should be decreasing the ones digit. Shoot. Good news. Let me do this again. Start this over. Erasing these, keeping this because that's going to be still counting down from whatever. And you know what? I am going to make it 99 seconds. Display. Actually, it's 48, which means the next time the tens column decreases. I think this is going to have a slight visual glitch. Okay, this is going to be way too fast, which is going to actually be helpful for testing purposes. See how this looks? Oh, right, I never actually told anything to activate the timer. Conveniently, we'll just use this guy here. And I'm going to leave this one at cycle 3. Because actually the actual timer itself is the only thing where we need to time things properly. So we wait a second, and then we send time display. Time display to decrement. Ta-da! That's a timer. And I didn't show you it. Ta-da! This is a timer. Sends time display to decrement, and it just restarts endlessly. That's kind of a start. Oh, right, because I originally had it as 100 seconds. 70, 6543. Okay, so we do hit a 70. Yeah. This here is a really, really common mistake people make when they do timers. There's that brief moment where it says 60. It went from 70 seconds left to 60. And then it updates. So... wait. I think that does it. Let me actually slow this timer down. What does this look like? Starts at 99. 98. 7, 6, 3, 2, 91, 90. Oh, right, we still have that. It's 57. This is turning into a 9, right? Yes. So you just want to get rid of this one, as we're already in the 90s. And now, set this to a fast speed. And it's going to be too fast for the game. But it should look smooth here. A beautiful digital timer. Will it expire correctly? Pretty much. We have to tell that last one to stop doing its thing, because otherwise this is going to happen, but that's an easy one. That'll be a simple fix. We'll add a stop here. Let time display. There. And that'll halt the timer properly, and we'll be good to go. Let's give this some proper timing. So we have to figure out how much time we want them to have. I mentioned before that a cycle is roughly 1/10 of a second. And that gets more and more inaccurate the longer your timing goes. So cycle 10, though, is approximately 1 second per second. So I want this to be a little faster than that. Cycle 5 will be 45 seconds, roughly. Because let's be honest, this is a cute little mini game, but it is not going to hold your attention for like 5 minutes or any absurd length of time. You want this to be a quick, neat little thing. So this will make it last for roughly 45 seconds. Let's see. Man, I'm calling out like half of the ZZT games that exist. They all go on far too long. They all don't know when to quit. So we're going to go back. I'm going to re-add this debug. That way I have a quick way of seeing just exactly how many can I catch. I'm going to actually play this game. Oh, actually, we're not quite there yet because we still have infinite energy. All beam on. Beam meter. Beam on. Doing this in the easiest way possible. which is with a bullet. And just by using some breakable walls, we'll get a meter that decreases. It is not nearly as cool looking as this, or as accurate, because that bullet is going to have to travel. So the player might be able to fire when they're technically out of energy while that bullet's still going across. Let's just see what it looks like. Oh, and actually, we want this to be no energy. And when this guy gets shot, tell the timer to stop. Time display B. Out of time. Actually, that's going to handle time display. Time display B. Out of time. So now we should have limited energy, limited time, and we get a point every time we abduct a human. So let's play it. Oh, right, I did actually code a win condition. Well, let's see, that took not a lot of time, but it did take a decent amount of energy, even for that. So it might be a better idea is, let's see, how do we balance this? Yeah, I'm gonna disable the cargo count and see just how many I can get. Help! Turns out that very erratic movement makes this difficult. Such is the challenge. There we go. It's a little better. So he's still got 3. Oh, why didn't that end? That should have still ended it. So that was 3 in about half the time. And all the energy. So we would... Let's see, what would we do? I'm probably going to keep the cargo at 3. I think I should just actually speed up the timer, or reduce it. Let's try this again. Yeah. So I set this timer to cycle 3. So that should decrease a lot faster. That's looking a lot better. Time was low, energy was low, cargo still made it through. It wasn't impossible. So that's decent. I'm going to leave it like that for now. So a few other things I'd like to do. Let me rearrange my HUD. Oh, I can't believe that fit perfectly. So my current plans for how to actually incorporate this into the game is, if we go all the way back to the mall, I'm going to have a dinky little arcade game in the corner that you basically win instantly, and then some kid makes fun of you for winning the baby game and challenges you to try it in real life, and then you start abducting people for fun. That's my plan. I mean, I could just make it an arcade game, but I think it's much more fun to actually have the player get to fly around in a UFO and abduct people. Brackets. So we'll go back to here, and we were using this red solid thing. Do it like this. You make this a variety of characters. Could do a boulder. Well, I'll mix it up a little. I'm gonna use a gem. Change green gem, red gem. Red gem, green gem. So now we're actually incorporating the fact that this is like a hacky way to easily track the state of the engine, and we're turning that into a part of the game world. I also have to find any instance here. I think it was this guy. Something does something with those solid walls, don't they? Or not? Did I break it? Or is this just fine as is? Oh no, that works. Look at that. Okay. So, not tonight, but we are going to code stuff to handle this. But one last thing, real quick. I'm going to actually secretly narrow the playfield. I'll make the game slightly easier. Yeah, it definitely looks like a label maker. I really like it. In fact, you should probably do the same thing here. So I put some invisible walls here. That's going to just limit this guy's movement a little bit. Technically, it'll make it easier if it does mash into a corner, but I mean, that's still a possibility to begin with here. Except now you'll definitely be able to reach them and fly around a bit. Plus, the person playing this isn't going to really know that they're there. They'd have to actually stick around for a while or pop open the editor. So ironically, I do want a default patches color here. Get these guys here. So see what dark red looks like. Now again, I'm using Control-T to pop open the tile information, so I'm not screwing around with stat order at all. That's not too bad. And just for some symmetry, now, one issue with ZZT is when you step off a passage, it's going to kind of eat any fake walls. So we can't have this like perfectly smooth looking thing. But we can make do with what we've got. Oh yeah, that'll come in handy later on. I think for now, we're going to wrap this up. We've got our dude. You can, of course, add sound effects and things when they get caught. You saw the original version. I had it like changed to an exclamation mark character to show that they were surprised. And spruce this up a little bit. How do you know it's Earth? Because they got trees. You actually add some nighttime stars. Text, obviously popular for that, but you can also make them a little bit more colorful. Oh yeah, I mean, a single line wall, that's a dot alright. Obviously if you're using them for a border, then it's not so good. You can get around that though. I mean, you can use blink wall rays for the border, and then just objects or text depending on the color for the four corners. We've got plenty of stats to spare. In fact, actually, our board size 4.3 kilobytes. That's like, this is an Atari 2600 game, basically. Our Martian Mall, 7 kilobytes. This board is significantly more complicated, code-wise. Alright. I think that's going to be it for now. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add at this point. There's still some cleanup to do on it, but we've got a playable little mini game. And actually, I did lie, because I will definitely forget this in a week or two. I want to make sure that the victory condition is still enabled. Well, that should be everything. Any other... Alright, yeah, we'll do one last playthrough for the road. Let's see if I can beat my high score. Although I probably can't now that I made it so you instantly win if you get 3. Okay, let's see. There's definitely an extra challenge in the fact that the UFO moves 2 spaces and the human moves 1. Timer's still not stopping. But we had like 50 quote-unquote seconds left. So that's our little UFO game, our UFO catcher, as it were. We're gonna call it a night there. Hopefully you've learned something here. You get an idea of the kind of things that go into making these mini games and how they can get enhanced with just a little bit more presentation. I think this board looks so much better now that there's stars and the whole metallic UI down there. So that's going to be it for tonight. Maybe next week, maybe not. We'll wrap this one up, integrate it into the actual world, get a purple key out of it, and that'll actually be our 5th purple key, so we're really close to being done. Only thing left to do is whatever the heck happens when you deposit all your purple keys at that big, weird Martian pyramid. But thank you all for watching, and we'll probably do a regular game stream on Sunday. I want to keep trying for Sundays for a bit and see how that works out. And again, the next Joy of ZZT, that series is just going to continue being a Tuesday thing, at least for the time being. Once this game is finished, I don't know what I'll be doing with that series. We'll see. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next stream. Later.